Hi, I'm Emily Hughston Hoffman, and I made a pop-up book about a dog with separation anxiety. As an extrovert, I tend to get my most anxious when I'm by myself, and without the energy and comfort from other people, getting started and keeping going on projects can be very difficult. So naturally, I decided to work for a year on a project where I'm primarily in a room by myself, cutting and gluing tiny little pieces of paper together over and over again. I should have known better. Last year, I made a digital comic from home and found it particularly difficult to complete since I wasn't having a whole lot of fun working on it, again, alone by myself. And since the primary medium that I like to work in is ceramics, I thought that the issue was that I was making this short story in a flat medium. I'm a very tactile artist, and I like objects that you can hold with your hands, and so I thought the solution would be to make something a little more sculptural and tell a story through a physical object. I'm also very interested in animation, and I think of pop-up books as sort of a physical form of animation. But I didn't really consider that what I needed was more social interaction. So I decided to do a pop-up book because of that misconception about the medium and thinking that that shift would solve the loneliness problem. But another reason that I was interested in doing this was because last April, my grandmother died, and I have some really great memories of looking at pop-up books with her and doing different craft projects with my grandfather. And so after Mop died, I got her small collection of pop-up books and even looked at some of the some cards that my grandfather had given to my grandmother that were really delightful. And sort of hubristically, I thought, oh, I can do this. And in fact, some of these specific designs did end up influencing my project. And as I was reflecting on my digital short story, I was thinking about what part of it I liked the most. And it was the dog, Phife, who's based on my real dog, Argos, who I love so much. And I knew that if nothing else, I needed to make him the subject of my piece because, you know, it would be impossible to resent the subject if it was him. And since Argos also has separation anxiety, I, thought that that would be a good theme. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So I came up with a short story in which Phife, Argos's pseudonym, is left alone while his owner Luna goes to a concert in Prospect Park. Phife manages to escape from his apartment and ventures to the park to find her. He figures that she must be there since that's the place that he always takes her. But he gets distracted by things that he can't control and gets thoroughly lost in the park until he hears some familiar music and finds Luna at the concert in Prospect Park. I want to take a minute and talk about the role of music in making this book. Phife, of course, is named after Phife Dog. And for my story, I also invented the fake band Bratty Encounter, which is based on two of my favorite musicians, Courtney Barnett and Sadie Dupuis. And while I was working at home by myself on this book, their music was a real comfort to me. They both sing about anxiety in very different ways, and I got a lot out of them, and I wanted to include them. Courtney Barnett's music makes me feel seen, and Sadie Dupuis' music makes me feel motivated. And I thought that if they could help guide me this much, then maybe they could be the beacon that would guide Phife back to Luna. And while I was writing the story in which Phife needed to learn to calm down and appreciate where he is and what he has, I was realizing how much I needed to teach myself that lesson. And instead of focusing on how lonely and bored I was, if I could just be present and focus on the things that I do like to do, then making art could be fun again. Any questions? Yes?
Did you find a mentor who works in pop-up? I'm very curious about, because you assembled all of those yourself. How did you figure out the machinations of pop-up?
Yeah, so my mentor, Sam Ida, does make pop-up books. He's made some wonderful adaptations of classic stories, Moby Dick, The Odyssey, a few others. He also, after I had already settled on my story, and I was researching mentors, I found his book, which is about a cat lost in Japan. So it was thematically a very good fit. And he helped me a lot with certain aspects of the book. A lot of it I was figuring it out myself by studying existing books and by, doing surgery and cutting up books and figuring it out that way. But Sam helped me a lot with certain principles and certain ideas about it tends to work better if a pop-up is falling backwards instead of towards the viewer. And so things like that were very helpful. There's also a book called The Elements of Pop-Up, which is particularly useful because it will show you different basic designs, but it pops up. And there's a website that goes along with it where you can download some of the templates. Also, last summer, I took a workshop at the Center for Book Arts where I got some introductory lessons in it. But it was a challenge, and I had never done something quite like this before. Yes?
I find this medium so interesting just because of how tactile, like you said, physical and sculptural like it is. But what really interests me is also the fact that it's more prone to degradation over time. And so how do you preserve a story that comes in this medium so it would be, presentable and still communicate the same messages over time, with maybe more prone to those kind of things?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely correct. These books do wear out and have, if they're being opened and read a lot, they have a somewhat limited lifespan. And one of the things that I find so interesting about that also is how they are often relegated to the area of children's books when, a child is in some ways the least, they're the ones who are most likely to destroy it in the process of looking at it. For the copies that I'm making right now, I'm hand assembling every one, and, it takes me about 10 hours to do a book. So the number of copies that I'll be physically making for sale at this stage of things is going to be limited. I will be shooting a video of going through a copy of the book that I will be posting on my website. Yes, Pilar?
All right, talk about a severe case of art imitating life, imitating art, but are there any chances of you sharing your book with Courtney Barnett, who was two other artists?
Courtney Barnett and Sadie Dupuis, yes.
Dupuis, and maybe we can make Franny and Counter a reality.
I've been thinking of this and hoping that somehow it would come to life. I have spoken with Sadie Dupuis about this a little bit. She's very responsive over Instagram, and it's been a nice treat that she's since followed me. And I plan to mail her a copy of this, as well as mail a copy of the book to Milk Records offices in Australia, which is Courtney Barnett's label. Robert, I thought I saw your hand.
what are your next professional steps?
So before entering this program, I was working primarily in television production, and I moved towards this program and wanting to write my own stories because I was thinking mostly that I wanted to be the creative driving force. However, everything that I've learned about my social needs in order to work well makes me realize that production and working with other people is really the best place for me. And I'm happy to be part of a system that makes a project. And so I'm looking to move back into the world of television production. Thank you.